everyone. How are you? I hope you are fine. Today we are going to discuss a topic on biology class 9. Breathing for energy. So, before starting the class, I like to share with you some of my experiences during the time of lockdown. The lockdown period was not a shutdown time for me. I conducted many journeys during that time. You may have a doubt, where have I gone? Please don't disbelieve me. My trips were not outside my home, but they were inside my body. Can we conduct journeys through our bodies? Yes, we can. There are many interesting tracks or routes inside our body which are not only wonderful but amazing. We have the digestive tract, circulatory tract, respiratory tract, etc. So, today I am going to share with you a trip through one of these tracts. So, we are going to study about a trip through the respiratory tract. I have given a name to that trip. A trip with breath. So, first of all, understand the route map of the journey. This is the entry point, nose. There are two doors. This is not a one-way route. We can use either doors for the entry and exit. We know it. So, I entered the door. Please remember, I am not alone. I have air or breath with me. There, we have a screening. In some places, we can see some boards to keep away something with us, or we cannot carry something inside. There are some guards to check us. There are boards such as keep your footwear here, don't bring plastic bags, etc. Like that. Some hair growths are there called cilia. They prohibit the entry of dust particles along with air. This area is called the nasal cavity. If any small dust particle overcomes the screening of cilia, they are trapped in the sticky mucous membrane present there. They are thrown out either through sneezing, spilling, or the digestive system. From the nasal cavity, we reach another area, pharynx. This is like a high traffic junction with many roads going to various places. Mainly, there are two routes in the pharynx. One to the respiratory tract and the other to the digestive tract. Thick fiber muscles are present there. Thus, direct food from mouth to stomach and air from nose to lungs. Oral and nasal regions are connected here. That is called isthmus. It is like an emergency bypass. There is the epiglottis, a lid that prevents food from entering the trachea. Do you know why I called it as an emergency bypass? When our nose is blocked and we are unable to take breath, we can take breath through our mouth. Like that, some patients who are unable to take food through their mouth are fed through a tube in the nasal cavity. What a wonderful setup, is it? There are two more small tubes present there that go to the ears. They are called eustachian tubes. We can discuss it on the other day. This is why I call pharynx a junction highly complicated with roots. From the pharynx, we go to the trachea. It is like a strong root. This tube, trachea, is strengthened by C-shaped cartilaginous rings. What is the use of these rings? These cartilaginous rings help trachea to remain open always. The trachea there splits into two branches and they go into the lungs. These branches are called bronchus. Bronchus also are strengthened by cartilaginous rings. Remember, trachea and bronchus are covered by cartilaginous rings. Inside the lungs, bronchus are divided into bronchiole. There are no cartilaginous rings in the bronchiole. These local rods or bronchiole are ending in elastic and delicate air sacs alveoli. Delicate air sacs, elastic in nature, seen at the tip of the bronchiole, are called alveoli. These air sacs are surrounded by a large number of capillaries. Gas exchange takes place here. How do they work? We can see it later. There are two more parts we have to understand. One is pleura. It is the double-layered protective membrane of the lungs. Pleural fluid, seen in between the membranous layers, prevent the friction between lungs and the walls of thoracic cavity. The other part is the diaphragm. It is a muscular wall that separates thoracic and abdominal cavities. I think all of you got an idea about the parts of our respiratory system. Let us see the parts and peculiarities once again.
Parts of our respiratory system. Nose or nostrils. It is an opening through which air passes in and out of our body. Nasal cavity. The cavity which connects the nostrils with the pharynx. There are cilia and mucus to prevent the unnecessary particles. Trachea or windpipe. It is a long tube strengthened by C-shaped cartilaginous rings. They help the trachea to remain open always. Bronchus. Branches of trachea. They are also supported by cartilaginous bronchial rings. Bronchus enters the lungs. Bronchiole. The terminal branches of the bronchus that opens to the alveoli. There are no cartilaginous rings. Alveoli. Air sacs seen at the tip of bronchioles. They are delicate and elastic in nature and are surrounded by a large number of capillaries. Air exchange takes place here. Pleura. The double-layered protective membrane of the lungs. Pleural fluid, seen in between the membranous layers prevent friction between the lungs and walls of the thoracic cavity. Diaphragm. The muscular walls that separate the thoracic and abdominal cavities.
Now it is clear? Okay. Before learning the function of the respiratory system, you should go through the parts and peculiarities once again. Path of breath from nostril to alveoli. Nose, nasal cavity, trachea, bronchus, bronchiole, alveoli. Breathing is the process of taking in and expelling air. Expansion and contraction of thoracic cavity result in breathing. How does this contraction and expansion takes place without our knowledge? Thoracic cavity expands. How? The ribs raise and the diaphragm contract. As a result, volume of the thoracic cavity increases. As the pressure of the outside air is greater than that of the inside air, air enters in. It is called inspiration. Is it clear now? Okay. Then there happened expiration. How? Watch another video. Ribs lower due to the relaxation of muscles. Diaphragm also relaxes and the volume of the thoracic cavity decreases. Then what happens? Air is expelled out because the pressure in the cavity is higher than that of the atmospheric pressure. Watch the video once again. What are the changes that occur in the thoracic cavity at the time of inspiration and expiration? Look at the table.
During inspiration, diaphragm contracts, ribs raise, volume of thoracic cavity increases, pressure in the thoracic cavity decreases, air enters in. During expiration, diaphragm relaxes, ribs lower, volume of the thoracic cavity decreases, pressure in the thoracic cavity increases, and air expels out.
Thus, we saw how air enters in and expels out of the respiratory system. Now, we are going to understand what happens to the air entered into the last part of bronchiole, that is alveoli. There are millions of alveoli in our lungs. They increase the respiratory surface area in our lungs. Dear friends, there is an interesting thing.
The surface area of both the lungs together turns up to 70 square meter, whereas the total surface area of the skin that covers the entire body is only 2 square meter.
Okay, now let us try to understand the real function of alveoli. They are surrounded by numerous blood capillaries. The walls of both alveoli and blood capillaries are made up of a single layer of cell. That means only a thin wall, a wall of 2 rows of cells that separate air in alveoli and blood in capillaries. One layer of alveoli and the other layer of capillaries. Exchange of air happens very easily there. Wonderful engineering, is it? Now, look at the gas exchange. During inspiration, we know that air enters into the lungs. The concentration of oxygen is higher in the atmospheric air, but the concentration of carbon dioxide is lower. But in the case of blood, in capillaries, the concentration of carbon dioxide is higher than that of oxygen. As a result, oxygen diffuses into capillaries and carbon dioxide from capillaries diffuses into alveoli. Once again, look at the things that help the process.
Elastic walls of alveoli and the greater surface area. The thin layer of walls of both alveoli and capillaries. The concentration gradient on respiratory gases. The concentration of oxygen in the air and carbon dioxide in the blood is high.
What happens to the oxygen rich in blood? Hemoglobin in the red blood cell carry oxygen into the cell. We can discuss the RBC and oxygen to cells in the next class. Before winding up, let us revise the topic we discussed today. First one, part of respiratory system. Nostril, nasal cavity, trachea, bronchus, bronchiole, alveoli, pleura and diaphragm. Next, we learned that movement of diaphragm and ribs regulate the volume and pressure in thoracic cavity. As a result, air enters the lungs. Next, we saw the exchange of gas between alveoli and blood. The exchange of gas takes place through the thin walls of alveoli and capillaries. I think you have got an exact idea about the respiratory system. Hope you enjoyed the class. Thank you and have a nice day.